hotly debated topic between football fans in England and around the globe is who is the better of the two most well-known English midfielders of all time, Frank Lampard or Steven Gerrard. Both the iconic talisman of their respective clubs as captains during some of their team's brightest and most memorable moments. The two Englishmen, originating and residing at opposing ends of the country, were highly regarded in their prime amongst the greatest midfielders of their generation, during a period of the sport's history that many other exceptionally gifted and successful players peaked, the 2000s. Their playing careers have both spanned across 3 decades, during which the English Premier League's popularity has grown to the most watched football association in the world, etching their names and numbers into the minds and hearts of global football fans. Comparisons between Gerrard and Lampard have been made since the early days of their careers, due to similar playing styles and achievements. Retiring at a similar time from the American MLS, and both having completed coaching qualifications, they have managed at British clubs, Gerrard in Scotland with Rangers, and Lampard returned to the club he spent the majority of his career with, Chelsea of London. Historically, Liverpool and Chelsea have never really been known as rivals, but arguably their two most legendary Englishmen will forever be seen that way. Frank James Lampard was born in the East London town of Romford on the 20th of June 1978 as one of 3 children to Patricia Harris and Frank Lampard Sr., who was a professional footballer. Frank Sr. played for West Ham as a left-back and ended up making 551 appearances from 1967 to 1985, winning 2 FA Cups and a second division title with the club. Additionally, his brother-in-law, Harry Redknapp, was also a player for West Ham from 1965 to 72, and later went on to play for other English and North American clubs. Frank Jr. knew from a young age that football was his main interest, having grown into a family of the sport whose passion inspired him. He has claimed since that his key hobby outside of football was reading and educating himself, due to motivation from his mother Patricia, who was a librarian. Often dissuaded by teachers when mentioning his desire to pursue a footballing career, Frank wanted to prove them narrow-minded, and after his GCSE exams decided on leaving school with the sole aim of making it as a professional player. Having Harry Redknapp, the newly appointed manager of West Ham, and his father, the assistant coach, with his best interests at heart, Frank had a chance at the East London club to showcase his talent. Redknapp wanted to take a deeper look at the club's academy and introduce quite a few young players, most notably Rio Ferdinand, Michael Carrick, Joe Cole alongside Frank. Lampard officially joined the youth team in 1994, inspired by his footballing influence Frank McAvenny, who led the West Ham attack in 2 stints from 1985 to 1992, scoring 49 goals. Labelled the apprentice in the youth team at the time, Redknapp defended Frank when questioned about his possible bias towards his relative, and justified his choice by simply stating that Lampard is a wonderful talent who works for the team and strives to make a name for himself, as opposed to resting on the laurels of his dad's reputation.
I'd like to ask Gary if he thinks like the publicity he's given young Frank there warrants it, because personally I don't think he's quite good enough yet. And I also think that in the last couple of years you've let some good midfielders go for peanuts, like Matt Holland and Scott Canham.
Well, no, they definitely wasn't good enough. He is good enough, and he definitely will be good enough. But no, I'll tell you now, you can sit in front of all these people, I tell you, without any shadow of a doubt, there will be no comparison with what Frank Lampard will achieve in football and what Scotty Canham will achieve in football.
But you'll give him the opportunity?
I don't give him the opportunity. There is no favouritism. In fact, I'm probably holding him back more. But I'm telling you now, and I didn't want to say this in front of him, but he will go right to the very top. Right to the very top.
Signing a professional contract in 1995, he was loaned to Swansea in the second division of English football for experience, before returning to the East London club in the new year of 1996 and making his debut for the Hammers on the 31st of January. Across the next 18 months, Frank made inconsistent appearances for the team, often being left out of the starting lineup while developing as a player. On the 15th of March 1997, Frank saw an early end to his season after breaking his leg while playing against Aston Villa, a game that ended 0-0. Lampard returned to the pitch for the following season with a different shirt number of 18 instead of his previous 26, and he became a regular in the first team setup. He met the chance given to him assertively, scoring in the club's opening game of the 97-98 campaign and netting his first hat-trick for the club. This was his most active and involved professional season yet, making 42 appearances in all competitions, with 9 goals to his name. For the upcoming season, Lampard's performances not only improved, but impacted the team overall. West Ham concluded their battle in the 98-99 Premier League by finishing 5th place, subsequently qualifying for the UEFA Intertoto Cup, established for cups unable to reach the Champions League or UEFA Cup. This broke a record for the club as their highest ever league finish. These achievements reaffirmed the board's managerial decision of Harry Redknapp, as he introduced a successful new philosophy by including youth players in the squad. Expectedly, Lampard accepted the contract extension to stay with the Hammers until 2005. The 1999-2000 season began earlier than usual, due to the club's European involvement. From July to August, West Ham powered through the underwhelming competition, which included a semi-final against Dutch side Heerenveen, against whom Lampard scored.
Lampard tries something long distance! Oh, what a goal! What a goal by Frank Lampard!
The Ligue 1 side, Metz, awaited the East London club in the two-legged final, which was concluded in Lorraine. The French side were in the driving seat, having held a 1-goal lead in London. However, the Hammers conquered the challenge and beat the French side on their home turf 3 goals, including one by Lampard, to 1, beating them on aggregate across the 2 legs and winning the tournament. Their success subsequently qualified them for the 1999-2000 UEFA Cup. Suddenly, there were egos in the team, as the signing of Italian centre-forward Paolo Di Canio not only elevated the team, but developed internal competition between players like Lampard, Trevor Sinclair and Paolo Wanchope, manifesting in arguing over penalties and free kicks. Frank Lampard finished the season as the club's 3rd top goal scorer for an attacking central midfield role with 14 goals behind Di Canio and Wanchope. The club finished the season in 9th. Having somewhat broken free from the shadow of his father, Frank began the 2000-2001 season with confidence and desire for success. However, the Hammers were not on that train. After Rio Ferdinand's departure to Leeds in November 2000, a plunge towards the bottom half of the Premiership table followed. By the end of the season, West Ham were on the verge of relegation in 15th place, a position the club could never afford to be in again. There was some trepidation about Redknapp due to the team's awful form. Suddenly, on their penultimate game of the season, Redknapp, after 7 years in that position, mysteriously left the club, without confirming whether he resigned by choice or was sacked by the board of West Ham. For Lampard, this managerial change, considering his personal relationship with Redknapp, was a shock which affected his perception of the club. Though he ended his season as the 3rd highest goalscorer in the team, having scored 9 goals, the young Englishman in June 2001 accepted a move for £11 million to South West London club Chelsea FC. Chelsea were managed at the time by former Serie A player Claudio Ranieri, replacing player-manager Gianluca Vialli, also of Italy, who hadn't experienced much success in the Premier League. Often finishing the season in anywhere from 6th to 3rd place, they had been qualifying for a European competition consistently since 1997, when decorated Dutchman Ruud Gullit took over from Glenn Hoddle. The 2001-02 squad was considerably strong, with diverse experience ranging from Champions League and World Cup winning French defender Marcel Desailly to young English players John Terry, Carlton Cole and Lampard. The 23-year-old was signed as part of a project to bring Chelsea titles and more material success. Ranieri first selected him against Newcastle United on the 19th of August 2001, their opening game to the 2001-02 Premier League season. Frank's footballing brain and work rate moulded perfectly with the team, thus Ranieri featured him in every one of the league games that season, netting 8 goals in his first season with the Blues. Dutch star striker Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank led the goal scoring with 23 in the league that season, helping them to the same 6th position as the previous campaign. By May 2003, some major alterations to the club were made, beginning with a change in ownership. In June, Russian-Israeli billionaire Roman Abramovich became the owner of all controlling companies of Chelsea FC. The previous owner of the club was Ken Bates, who went on to buy Leeds United. With this new owner, Chelsea instigated a commercial growth programme to develop and expand the club's branding, aiming to rival the football empires of Manchester United, Barcelona and Real Madrid. From this point onwards, Lampard's place in the team was fully secured, and he felt respected by fans in the way that he lacked at West Ham. Continued goal scoring and attacking contributions reaped him some personal accolades throughout the 2003-04 season, namely the September Premier League Player of the Month and the PFA Fans Player of the Month, just a month later. By the end of the campaign, Chelsea had managed to climb to their highest league spot since the genesis of the Premier League in 1992, finishing second to arguably the greatest ever English side, the Arsenal Invincibles, who went unbeaten for 49 games from May 2003 to October 2004. Featuring in the league's 2004 PFA Team of the Year alongside club colleague John Terry and being considered the second best player in the country behind Thierry Henry by the Football's Writers Association, made this Frank's best season yet, having netted a personal best 10 goals with 5 assists. It wasn't exclusively domestic success that Chelsea saw that season, reaching the semi-finals of the esteemed Champions League against Monaco, claiming a victory against Arsenal in the quarters. In one of the tournament's strangest seasons yet, Monaco were the victors over the Londoners, leading them to the final in Germany against the eventual champions FC Porto.
Porto are the champions of Europe!
Lampard had scored 4 goals in the competition. After the near miss of that season, the board and owners knew that changes were required to trump the top teams like Arsenal and Man United. On the 2nd of June 2004, just a week after his Champions League victory with Porto, Jose Mourinho was appointed manager over Ranieri at Chelsea. The self-titled Special One entrusted his Porto backroom staff for the Chelsea project Mourinho had embarked on. It was not just the staff that he brought with him, but also defenders like Ricardo Carvalho and Paulo Ferreira, both of whom were instrumental in the remarkable success of Porto in the previous campaign. However, it wasn't plain sailing for the young manager by any means. Many first-team players came to the end of their contracts and left the club, including Juan Sebastian Veron, Marcel Desailly, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, Emmanuel Petit and Hernan Crespo. Mourinho, entrusted by Abramovich, spent over £70 million on new signings such as Czechoslovakian keeper Petr Cech, young fast Dutch winger Arjen Robben and Ivorian striker Didier Drogba. The new team fit together brilliantly, developing on the potential shown throughout their last season, evidenced by winning the first 4 games of the 2004-05 season and topping the table by 5 points as they went into the Christmas break. On the European stage, Chelsea had faced some serious challenges. Firstly, during the group stage, Mourinho was pitted against his old team and European champions Porto, whom they finished above, topping the group. From here, they drew the intimidating Barcelona, who, despite a 2-1 away loss, they overcame at Stamford Bridge by 4 goals to 2, one of which Lampard claimed in the 17th minute. The April quarter-final against 2001 European champions Bayern Munich began with a Lampard brace, helping Chelsea secure a 4-2 win in Fulham. Chelsea's goal surplus from the first leg proved valuable as they progressed through to the semi-final with the aggregate in their favour. Decidedly, the Blues wouldn't have to travel so far from home since Liverpool were drawn, inspiring confidence amongst the team and fans given Chelsea had beaten Liverpool twice in the Premier League that season and once in the League Cup final. Recent history went out the window on this occasion though, tying a goalless first leg at the Bridge and conceding a sloppy 4th minute winner to Spanish winger Luis Garcia. Lampard was thriving under new circumstances, forming formidable partnerships with the teammates and scoring 5 goals by the end of the year. Chelsea were dominant enough during the season that they were able to grasp the title 3 games early and, on the 3rd of April 2005, Mourinho's team set out to achieve this. Away facing Bolton, needing victory to become the champions of the English top flight for the first time since 1955, exactly 50 years prior. Lampard claimed his chance to put the team ahead after an hour of play in the Reebok Stadium and darted the ball with his stronger right foot past the keeper's reach. Consequently, the game's tired pace abruptly picked up, and Bolton drove for some points, enabling a 75th minute Chelsea counter-attack spearheaded by Claude Makelele, whose through ball was collected by a composed and informed Frank Lampard to double their lead and conclude Chelsea's campaign. It was a record-breaking season for the club. Their first Premier League trophy, most away wins, most clean sheets kept, fewest goals conceded, and most wins in a season. Lampard, as with the previous 2 seasons, had played all 38 Premier League games, scoring 19 goals in all competitions, a career high and the most for Chelsea that year, while acquiring a league-leading 16 assists.
Chelsea are Premiership champions for the 2004 to 2005 season.
Individually, there was more to come for the Englishman. Across all competitions, Lampard had a wonderful season, contributing heavily to the attacking side of the team and doing so when it mattered most. There was a commonality among English football viewers in that Lampard deserved to be named the 2005 Footballer of the Year, an accolade that had been previously awarded to the likes of Thierry Henry, Eric Cantona, Dennis Bergkamp and Gianfranco Zola. In order to continue this record-breaking form, Abramovich again generously funded Mourinho's transfer pursuits, enabling him to sign Ghanaian holding midfielder Michael Essien for £24 million and exciting English winger Sean Wright-Phillips from Manchester City for £21 million in the summer of 2005. Still, this did rest on the promise that the manager would repeat the last season's successes, if not exceed them, explicitly by winning trophies in Europe to project Chelsea to the desired status. Due to the past 18 months of his career, Lampard was at the heart of the team, relied on for tireless performances as the vice-captain to Terry, both of whom were selected for the 2005 FIFA Pro Men's World 11, alongside Makelele in September. The Brazilian winger Ronaldinho eclipsed Frank in the personal accolades of the Ballon d'Or and FIFA World Player of the Year. Records would continue to be broken as the Blues won every one of their first 9 games for the 2005-06 campaign, shooting them to the number 1 spot on the table. Over this period, Lampard scored 12 goals, an impressive total unheard of for a midfielder in such time. Consecutively, he had played 164 Premier League games until late December that year, when, because of sickness, he was rested. After a 10-game winning spell, their form slipped, dropping points in the new year to Charlton, Aston Villa and Middlesbrough. Nevertheless, Chelsea's determination and team strength separated them from the pack of favourites, winning the Premier League title for the 2nd time in a row as Chelsea became 100 years old. To this day, Chelsea in 2005 and 06 hold joint Premier League records for most wins at home and fewest home losses in a season. Additionally, they became the first team in the Premier League to win against every single team in a season.
Biggest ever victory at Anfield, achieved on their first ever visit way back in 1907. Full-time score at Anfield reads Liverpool 1, Chelsea 4.
Dreams of European dominance, though, remained fantasy when Chelsea were eliminated from the Champions League by eventual winners Barcelona in the round of 16. Lampard had been hailed that season by Mourinho as the best player in the world, concluding Chelsea's season as their top goalscorer domestically and in Europe for the 2nd consecutive year. For the Premier League, this was amongst its brightest and most exciting periods, with Arsenal's Invincibles, Liverpool's European champions, Manchester United's Rooney and Ronaldo, and obvious Chelsea, whose last 2 seasons had entered them into the conversation for most successful and best English side ever. Frank Lampard's most important time was arguably from 2002 to 2006, as he transitioned from a young prospect, shamed away from his father's club, with the ability to score just south of 10 goals a season, into a leader, shining in major fixtures while providing consistently determined performances and, from midfield, outscoring the club's appointed marksman. His team responsibilities would expand into captaincy, as skipper John Terry suffered a back injury, ridding him absent for the majority of the 2006-07 upcoming season. Though this may have been a burden to some, Lampard thrived, netting 7 goals in 8 games and becoming the highest scoring midfielder in Chelsea's history over Dennis Wise before the new year. Abramovich had again permitted expensive transfer market activity. Notably, £30 million was finally spent in the acquirement of Andriy Shevchenko's services. The 2004 Ballon d'Or winner was Europe's ultimate striker at the time, attaining a Champions League trophy and prospering in the competition frequently. He was undoubtedly Abramovich's idea of the next step towards the illustrious European title that had eluded them thus far. Michael Ballack, Ashley Cole and Salomon Kalou also joined the club. Didier Drogba and Lampard had established an impressive link which resulted in relentless goal scoring from the pair, often with the Englishman as the provider. The two became Chelsea's most important players in all competitions that season, with Lampard appearing 61 times for the club and Drogba scoring 31 goals, outperforming the disappointing new star in Shevchenko and remaining Chelsea's first choice centre-forward. Lampard's highlights from the season included a winning brace against local rivals Fulham, a vital thunderbolt strike in a 3-2 victory over Everton,
It's a great hit and it's a great goal! Frank Lampard!
and a tricky chip over the head of Victor Valdez in the Champions League to help them secure a strenuous away point at the Camp Nou. His first Chelsea hat-trick was netted against Macclesfield Town in the third round of the FA Cup. Following this, he provided the assist for Drogba's extra-time winning goal versus Manchester United in the Cup final.
Chelsea have scored, and it's Didier Drogba with the first goal in an FA Cup final at the new Wembley.
Frank reiterated his love for the London club during a post-match interview, stating he wanted to stay at the club forever. Despite the Millennium Stadium League Cup final success, ultimately Chelsea was second best that season, as Manchester United clinched the Premier League title with 2 games remaining, bringing an end to an unlikely possibility of the quadruple. Additionally, in a similar fashion to the 2005 Champions League campaign, Liverpool narrowly defeated the Blues in a semi-final penalty shootout after a tense 1-1 aggregate scoreline. The next few years for Lampard and Chelsea were eventful. On the 20th of September 2007, Mourinho unexpectedly left the club by mutual consent after continued tensions between himself and Abramovich came to light following the appointment of Avram Grant as director of football. Grant then took over as manager. Lampard spent a broad portion of the campaign on the bench as he suffered a torn muscle fibre, leaving him inactive for 46 days. Able to play 24 Premier League matches, Chelsea's season wasn't drastically hampered by his absence, and after scoring against Huddersfield in the FA Cup, Lampard became the 8th player to score 100 goals for the Blues.
Lampard, goal 100 for Chelsea.
After 90 minutes, he memorably showed his appreciation to the fans. Another moment from his season occurred in March 2008, scoring 4 goals against Derby County. In the Champions League, Chelsea reached the final after a quest that Lampard had played a considerable part in, separating them from Fenerbahce after his 87th minute winning quarter-final goal to make it 3-2. His contribution in the semis against Liverpool was doubly important as his mother had passed a week earlier. Converting an emotional penalty in the 98th minute, he won the game for the team, outdoing the Reds 4-3. Regardless of his 45th minute goal, Frank lost his debut European final after Edwin van der Sar kept out Nicolas Anelka's penalty and Manchester United lifted the 2008 Champions League trophy.
40 years on from their first European title, the European champions again, at Manchester United.
Lampard's heroic efforts throughout his European journey earned him UEFA Club Midfielder of the Year. In Avram Grant's first season, Chelsea finished without a single trophy. This hadn't happened in 4 years and consequently he was sacked just 3 days after their Champions League shortcoming. Former Brazil national team manager Luis Felipe Scolari was his successor for the upcoming season. At the beginning of the season, on the 13th of August 2008, Lampard became the highest paid Premier League player after signing a 5-year deal with the Blues worth £39.2 million. For him, It was an inspired start, scoring 5 in the first 11 games, netting the 150th goal of his club career and converting one of the more unconventional goals of his career, reflected on by Scolari as the best he'd ever seen.
Again, and into the net. What a glorious finish by Frank Lampard. And Hull hits early on. Chelsea answering back in perfect style after the weekend.
He rocketed a free kick from 35 yards against Ipswich Town in the FA Cup and gave 2 vital assists against Arsenal.
Pursued by Drogba, Fabianski's come. Drogba must score. Chelsea lead in London.
Progressing Chelsea to the final facing Everton, in which he scored a left-footed long shot to reclaim silverware for his beloved Blues.
John Terry lifts the FA Cup.
Notably, he honoured his father, while celebrating the goal in the same way as Frank Sr. had 29 years prior. Closing the season with 20 to his name for the 4th consecutive year and providing 19 assists, earned him his 3rd Chelsea's Player of the Year award, justifying his expensive pre-season contract. A managerial muddle occurred throughout the season when Scolari was dismissed from his role in February 2009. Ray Wilkins replaced him as caretaker manager, while Scolari's appropriate replacement was found in Russian national team manager Gus Hiddink. Hiddink failed to win the Premier League title in his first season, but had close to the perfect start, securing 34 points from a possible 39. Allegedly, the club began their surprising pursuit of AC Milan manager Carlo Ancelotti to replace him during the summer, leading to supporters chanting in defiance of this rumour, criticising Chelsea's treatment of Hiddink. Nevertheless, Ancelotti became the new man at the helm of the blue ship, whose sole priority now was European glory. Domestically, the campaign started well, as Lampard inspired the team to the 2009 Community Shield with a goal and penalty in the shootout versus Man United.
He's given Carlo Ancelotti his first trophy as the Blues' new head coach.
The Englishman's goal drought was ruined by a brace in the 5-0 victory over Blackburn on the 24th of October 2009, and a week later was nominated for the FIFA World Player of the Year award for the 6th straight time. The formidable Inter Milan were drawn in the Champions League, returning Ancelotti with his new squad to the famous Italian city in the first leg. However, the reunion wasn't so glorious for him. After a 3-minute opener from Diego Milito, Simon Kalou levelled the scoreline with a crucial away goal, until Esteban Cambiasso volleyed in a rebound to settle the winner. In London, with Chelsea requiring just 1 goal for qualification into the quarters, Samuel Eto'o gave late upset, converting a long through ball at the bridge and subsequently eliminating the Blues, who were now well accustomed to European shortcomings. Following this, Frank scored braces against Sunderland, Birmingham and Manchester City in the new year, before bagging 4 against Aston Villa in March, not only helping the squad to 3 points, but surpassing Peter Osgood's goal-scoring tally of 150 goals and elevating him to the 3rd on the renowned list. Milestones continued to be broken for him though. He hit 25 goals in all competitions in a season for the first time ever when Chelsea pummeled Stoke 7-0 on the 25th of April, while inadvertently also converting 25 in a Premier League season, outdoing his goal scoring from any other year. The Englishman continued to play a vital part in their domestic efforts, scoring in their penultimate game of the year, which they won 2-0 over Liverpool, putting them a point clear at the table summit ahead of Manchester United. Wigan Athletic faced the Blues in the final fixture, anticipating a clinical and determined Chelsea. The Fulham club didn't disappoint, putting 8 past Mike Pollett, who was drastically overwhelmed by the vicious strike force of Drogba, Anelka and Lampard. The 8-0 pummelling handed the title to Chelsea for the first time in 4 years, and yet more was to come.
Chelsea are champions again!
Ancelotti's first season became Chelsea's most successful yet, after beating Portsmouth in the FA Cup final just 6 days in the wake of the Wigan game, thus becoming the 7th English club to complete the double. Noteworthy Premier League statistics and records were shattered in this Chelsea campaign. They became the top scoring ever team with 103 goals, the most goals scored at home in a season with 63, and the greatest ever goal difference in a league, an astonishing +71 margin. Chelsea were now the first top-flight English team to attain a century of league goals in a season since Tottenham during their 1962-63 year. Entering the 2010-11 season with the aim to defend their championship, the club's determination drove them through the first 5 games, claiming all the possible points with Lampard integral as ever. Adversity for the Englishman was encountered when, after an August triumph against Stoke, Lampard was revealed to be experiencing a hernia, and though the internal stress was treated successfully, he faced new injuries during a November coaching session. Remaining on the sideline, Ancelotti claimed he wouldn't be fit until December at best due to an injured abductor muscle in his leg. After 4 gruelling months, he finally returned as a substitute against Spurs on the 12th of December. During a January FA Cup fixture against Ipswich Town, Lampard made 3 goal contributions, helping the team to their 8-0 whitewash, as well as reaching and surpassing a personal landmark of 201 Chelsea goals. His 12th goal of the English campaign came against title rivals Manchester United at Old Trafford, reigniting title dreams. However, these fantasies were soon extinguished when the game ended 2-1 to the Red Devils, separating them from the rest and handing them their 19th league title. Two weeks after this, Carlo Ancelotti was sacked and replaced by Andre Villas-Boas on the 22nd of June 2011. With a promising league start, the managerial appointment seemed a shrewd choice. Lampard found his footing early into the campaign, scoring his 5th Chelsea hat-trick against Bolton Wanderers and levelling a Champions League game in Valencia to claim a vital away point, helping elevate them to Group E winners. Against Bolton on the 25th of February, Lampard scored his 10th of the league, contributing to the 3-0 triumph. With this, his 149th all-time league goal, he became the only player to convert 10 goals in 9 back-to-back Premier League seasons. Losses had come for the Blues more frequently than expected against Manchester United, QPR, Arsenal, Liverpool and Aston Villa before the new year, and despite Lampard's heroic performances securing them occasional successes, the board ultimately sacked Villas-Boas after their West Brom loss. His replacement was found in Italian first-team assistant manager and past player Roberto Di Matteo, who became the caretaker manager for the remainder of the season. Both the BPL and UCL seemed too far out of reach, tied 4th in the league and going into the round of 16 second leg versus Napoli, 3-1 down. Chelsea were dependent on the experienced old guard to salvage a result against the Naples side and qualify them for the final 8 of Europe's elite. Drogba opened the scoring in the 29th minute before Lampard curled in a dangerous ball from the corner, which was attacked by the captain, lobbing the keeper and doubling their lead. Napoli's Gökhan Inler carefully placed a volley to the right of Cech, putting them ahead 4-3 across the legs. Chelsea's Vice powerfully struck away a penalty in the 75th minute after a blatant Andrea Dessina handball, extending the game to extra time with a 4-4 aggregate scoreline. Heroically, Branislav Ivanovic on the penalty spot received a grounded cross from Drogba, which he guided into the Napoli net before the whistle blew for the end of the first half of the extra period. This goal sealed victory for the Blues and inspired them to push for the final. Focus on Europe negatively impacted their already poor domestic performance, but Lampard individually reached another milestone. In a 1-1 draw to local rivals Fulham, he scored his 150th Premier League goal. Revenge was in the air for the Blues before their European semi-final against champions Barcelona, who had controversially eliminated them 3 years prior. Drogba stole the advantage, scoring the sole goal of the first leg at the Bridge. Barcelona hosted the second leg, still favourites, and when John Terry saw red, Lampard stepped up as captain for the remainder of the game and final, should they reach it. A 2-0 deficit before 45 minutes failed to deflate the players. Ramirez chipped Victor Valdez following a long through ball from the temporary skipper, giving Chelsea the lead on away goals just prior to the half-time whistle. Ballon d'Or winner Lionel Messi failed to score a vital penalty, striking the post in the 49th minute. Chelsea had been on the defensive back foot for the majority of the night, only retaining 28% possession and completing over 500 passes less than the Catalans. Ironically, the underwhelming signing Fernando Torres ran the length of the pitch after a defensive clearance from Ashley Cole. to evade Valdez in added time and slot away the unlikely winner.
Of the season, it's Torres to give Chelsea a place in the Champions League final. The headline has been written.
Unbelievable!
Real Madrid fell short to Bundesliga runners-up Bayern Munich on away goals, setting up a German-English final for the first time since 1999. Though the league was out of sight, with both Manchester clubs running far above the rest, domestic silverware was available for Chelsea, namely the FA Cup as they reached the final in which they would face Liverpool. Lampard provided Drogba's goal to separate the teams and claimed the Englishman's 4th FA Cup and the club's 7th in its history. 2 weeks passed, and the 19th of May 2012 eventually came, a day that Chelsea fans globally were both eagerly awaiting and anxious for. Bayern were a daunting side, with Robben, Ribéry, Müller, Lahm, Neuer and Schweinsteiger being some of the strongest world players in their respective positions. As the battle for the famous trophy began, it was clearly going to be a tight game. The deadlock lasted the entirety of the first 45 minutes. However, there was a more assertive and fluid playing team, evidenced by Bayern's 60% possession and 13 overall shots to Chelsea's 2. Continued control into the second half led to Thomas Müller's 83rd minute bouncing header over Cech, seemingly winning the game for the Germans. Juan Mata crossed in an 88th minute corner, met by Drogba who powerfully guided the ball past the reach of Neuer, equalising for the Blues and prolonging the game for at least another 30 minutes. Within this time, Ribéry was brought down by the Chelsea marksman in their box, winning a penalty for Bayern, which ex-Chelsea player Arjen Robben amazingly failed to put past Cech. Much like the 2008 All-English European final, Chelsea were forced to penalties after 120 intense minutes. The Reds captain Philipp Lahm was the first successful taker. He was followed by Juan Mata for Chelsea, who missed. Gomez and Neuer converted theirs, equalled by David Luiz and captain Lampard's efforts. Ivica Olic was denied by Cech, and Cole finished Chelsea's 4th, tallying up to 3-3. Bastian Schweinsteiger was responsible for Bayern's next spot kick. However, the Blues' number 1 tipped his strike onto the woodwork, putting the heavy duty on the shoulders of their Ivorian hero.
Well, he scored a magnificent header to equalise and take it to extra time. He gave away a penalty which should have been advantage Bayern, but wasn't. And it's come down to Drogba, who this time is the 5th penalty taker for Chelsea in the final shootout. He's done it!
Didier Drogba confidently struck the ball into the bottom left, sending Neuer the wrong way and winning the Champions League for the first time in the club's history. Chelsea became the first London team to ever win this competition, and they did so in perhaps their most unlikely season of the decade, finishing 6th in the Premier League. Chelsea's 2 captains collectively lifted the trophy that had eluded them for so many years, and Lampard enjoyed the best night of his career.
It is Chelsea's European Cup at last. It's Chelsea history. Nothing like the first time.
He had now won everything at club level with his London team, but he stayed at Chelsea even past this landmark. The 2012-13 season was similar as they finished 3rd in the Premier League under past Liverpool manager Rafael Benitez after the sacking of Di Matteo in late November 2012. Lampard's main points worthy of note that season was scoring his 200th Chelsea goal against West Ham in March 2013 and, against Aston Villa on the 11th of May, exquisitely equalled Bobby Tambling's record with a long shot into the top left. 27 minutes later, he netted a winner, breaking the record and becoming Chelsea's highest goalscorer of all time, immortalising his legend. Champions League glory slipped away after placing third in their group and being demoted into Europe's second tier, the Europa League, formerly known as the UEFA Cup. Comprehensively overcoming Basel in the semis 5-2, Benfica awaited them in the final, in which Lampard would captain. Fernando Torres put Chelsea ahead in the 60th, but within 8 minutes, Oscar Cardozo had levelled the game from 12 yards after a Cesar Azpilicueta handball. To the rescue again came the loyal Serbian Branislav Ivanovic with an ambitious header into the far corner past Artur in the 93rd minute, winning their second European trophy in a row. Though not as legendary as the prior year's achievement, it added to a growing Chelsea cabinet. Lampard signed a one-year contract extension on the 16th of May 2013, knowing that Chelsea's 2013-14 campaign would be the last with their faithful vice-captain. Jose Mourinho returned to the club as replacement for Benitez, much to the excitement of the fans. In this season, Lampard scored his 207th goal, which moved him past Robbie Fowler on the all-time Premier League goalscorers list, played his 100th Champions League match against PSG, and netted his 250th career club goal, bettering Stoke 3-0. He ended his season with 8 goals in all competitions. Chelsea finished the football year with no silverware, finishing third in the league, reaching only the 5th round in the FA and League Cups, and losing the semis of the UCL. The Englishman claimed that contract discussions would go forth after the 2014 World Cup and will meet with Chelsea before any consideration of a move elsewhere. However, on the 3rd of June, the club verified his departure. 648 appearances, 211 goals, 3 Premier League titles, 1 UEFA Champions League, 1 Europa League, 4 FA Cups and 2 League Cups. Frank Lampard is one of the most respected and gifted midfielders to ever grace the Premier League, whose success is only eclipsed by his influence. Adored by fans to this day, he remains not just a Chelsea club legend, but an icon of world football. Stephen George Gerrard was born in Whiston, Merseyside on the 30th of May 1980 as the youngest of 2 brothers to Julia Ann and Paul Gerrard. Born with a defect called clubfoot, his feet seemed internally rotated at the ankle, but he eventually recovered after some injuries. Attending St Michael's Primary School, his personality came out on the pitch and he began playing for his local side Whiston Juniors, where he started to gain some scouting interest. Being a devoted Everton supporter as a child didn't stop him from joining the Liverpool Academy, aged 9. A career in football may never have been, if not for his father. Gerrard accidentally kicked a garden fork during a friendly kickabout, forcing a tine in his right foot's big toe. Initially, the doctor established that the young boy's toe would have to be amputated, but his father objected after a second opinion, and eventually Gerrard recovered, saving his future career. Focus on football developed heavily into his teenage years, attending Cardinal Heenan Catholic High School, which was well known for its advanced football status over the alternative facilities. Gerrard had trials at many teams, notably Manchester United, retrospectively admitted as a way to force Liverpool into offering him a young training scheme contract. On the 5th of November 1997, his first professional Liverpool contract was signed. A year later, he made his official Liverpool debut on the 27th of November 1998 in a Premier League fixture against Blackburn Rovers at Anfield, Liverpool's legendary arena. Though he only contributed a minute of game time as a late substitute, it was an invaluable moment for the 18-year-old. The remainder of his debut season was mainly spent in the centre of midfield as skipper Jamie Redknapp was injured. Nerves played on Gerrard's mind throughout his 13 performances during the 1998-99 season, not often contributing to the attack, though he played as a right winger. The teenager felt he was more naturally defensive, favouring a holding role and winning the ball as opposed to pressing forward offensively. Allied with Redknapp in the midfield, he gradually gained confidence throughout the 1999-2000 season. However, this was marred in the notoriously zealous Merseyside derby at Anfield. Liverpool faced a precarious start to their campaign, achieving very much a 50-50 record of 10 points from a possible 21. Contentious as ever, the Toffees led after only 4 minutes through Kevin Campbell, an advantage Liverpool struggled to steal. As the Reds became desperate, defensive midfielder Dietmar Hamann made way for Gerrard with 25 minutes remaining, but within 10 minutes tensions escalated. Following an accidental collision between Everton striker Francis Jeffers and Liverpool keeper Sander Westerveld, a one-on-one fight broke out, with the two trading punches. Predictably, the pair were sent off, reducing both sides to 10 men. In the final moments of the game, the 19-year-old showcased his inexperience with a horrid challenge on the goalscorer, avenging the Reds before the final whistle declared the 1-0 victory for the Blues. 6 weeks later, Gerrard scored his first Liverpool goal for the senior team against Sheffield Wednesday, gaining much needed self-confidence to go into the new millennium. Progress was hindered though, as Gerrard began to endure incessant back pains, identified as a consequence of accelerated growth while playing regularly as a teen. Soon after this, injuries to the groin hampered his return to full fitness, and Gerrard underwent 4 operations. Brighter skies followed his gradual recovery as he started 50 games in all competitions for the club with 10 goals to show for his efforts throughout the 2000 and 2001 season. By mid-May 2001, Liverpool had won 3 major trophies, namely the FA Cup, League Cup and UEFA Cup.
One of the great European finals, and Liverpool come out as winners.
In the final of which Gerrard had played a vital part, netting 1 of 5 goals for the Reds, who salvaged success against Alaves in a 9-goal blockbuster. Individual accolades came for Gerrard to top off his breakthrough season. He won the PFA Young Player of the Year and Fans Player of the Year awards.
Liverpool through and through. Would it be a career and life ambition to start your career in the academy, which has produced so many good players after all, and go right through your whole career as a Liverpool man?
Well, I can't say I'm going abroad here, can I?
Achieving remarkable success as a fixture in the first 11, these early years proved crucial to the Englishman's development, as the taste of success only made Gerrard more voracious. Though unable to grasp further silverware in the next year, the hunger was reserved for the Premier League title and the UEFA Champions League. In the 2001-02 campaign, he played 4,000 minutes of game time across all competitions, achieving 17 goal contributions and representing himself professionally, reiterating his undying love for the club. The Merseyside Reds were denied the 2002 league title by Arsene Wenger's diverse and energetic Arsenal, whose period of dominance was underway.
Arsenal have scored yet again in the Premiership. Arsenal are the champions. They've taken the title away from Manchester United. They've done it here at Old Trafford, and they have done the double.
Having finished the last 2 seasons in 3rd and 2nd respectively, the 02-03 season seemed destined for Liverpool to end their 13-year-long English title drought. A fantastic start to the league crusade, including a 7-game win streak, was encouraging, driving them to first, but form and league position tragically plunged after a surprising loss to Middlesbrough in November. Gerrard's main highlight came in March against historic rivals Man U in the Millennium Stadium. He buried the opener to inspire a 2-0 victory for Liverpool and claim another League Cup.
Would you believe that from Steven Gerrard?
finishing 5th and attaining but one piece of silverware was massively underwhelming, considering their impressive form in the prior season. Preceding the 03-04 season, Gerard Houllier reassessed a few aspects to his team and, in November, decided to hand the captain's armband to Gerrard in place of current skipper Sami Hyypiä due to the 23-year-old's evident leadership qualities. Gerrard signed a new 4-year deal after this. As Gerrard eased into the role that had been designated to club deities like Ron Yeats, Graham Souness, John Barnes and Ian Rush, the squad failed to produce improved results. As of May, they had dropped to 4th, which fell short of what the board, fans or squad had hoped for. However, a top 4 finish qualified them for the UCL, an achievement that would later lead to a significant moment in Liverpool's history. Houlier's trophy-less season turned out to be his last, and he resigned as Liverpool manager. Ensuing interest from Chelsea came Gerrard's way, having admitted his disappointment with the club's progress over the last few years. An enticing £20 million offer was put forward, to which Gerrard responded, "For the first time in my career, I've thought about the possibility of moving on." Chelsea, having finished 2nd in the league, seemed a logical next step for his career advancement. However, he entrusted in Liverpool and their new intriguing manager, Rafael Benitez, heading into the 04-05 campaign. In 2002, Benitez had comfortably led Valencia to their first La Liga championship in 31 years, while attracting fans to his belligerent and attacking tactical style. Liverpool's higher-ups felt this philosophy could translate well to the EPL, and aid them to compete with Arsenal, Manchester United and Chelsea. Failing to convince Liverpool's star striker to extend his contract, Real Madrid signed Michael Owen early into the summer window. Subsequently, La Liga talents Luis Garcia and Xabi Alonso came to Merseyside, further enabling Benitez to install his Spanish methods. Gerrard picked up a foot injury in September 2004, reducing him to the reserves until November and compromising the team's results. Following his return, on the 8th of December, he vitally converted a half volley past Olympiacos in the Champions League to seal an 86th minute 3-1 victory, qualifying the Reds for the round of 16 on goal difference. This was self-admittedly Gerrard's most important goal for Liverpool. A 3-2 loss to Chelsea in the League Cup final, coupled with hopeless domestic form and a third-round FA Cup exit, placed additional pressure on their European campaign to bring silverware to Merseyside. They comprehensively overcame Bayer Leverkusen 6-2 across 2 legs, which matched them against the Old Lady of Italy in the last 8. I Bianconeri's team generally eclipsed Liverpool's, based on form, player quality and squad depth. Considering also that Juve had outperformed Real Madrid's Galacticos in the prior round, and conceded only 2 goals in 8 Champions League games, Liverpool's performance was inspired in the home first leg as they were 2-1 victors. In Turin, Juventus required just 1 goal for progression into the semis, and with Gerrard out, Rafa's team became heavy underdogs in a fixture they were essentially winning. Temporary skipper Sami Hyypiä and Carragher suppressed the Italian attack for the full 90 and shockingly advanced to the final 4. Mainstream media was stunned. The Guardian's Barry Glendening wrote, "Liverpool in the semi-final? No disrespect to the Harry Kewell, Igor Biscan or Djimi Traore carrying Scouse outfit, but if that doesn't devalue the whole competition, I don't know what does. How has a team this poor and injury-ravaged got this far? And more to the point, can they do a Porto and go all the way?" The next round draw revealed an all-English semi-final, Chelsea vs Liverpool. Favourites AC Milan would therefore face PSV Eindhoven in the other game, and for many this guaranteed the Rossinieri finalists, but the result was significantly closer than expected. The London Blues had beaten Liverpool 3 times that season, and by the end of April already won a title a month early, losing 1 game from 38. A tense Stamford Bridge first leg ended 0-0, giving Liverpool an advantage at Anfield. Quick to the whistle, the home side pressed Mourinho's Blues, and after only 4 minutes, Luis Garcia followed up Milan Baros's efforts to lead Chelsea. But this sparked fierce debate. William Gallas cleared Garcia's attempt before anyone could be certain it had crossed the line, but as the Spaniards celebrated, it was clear that the referee had given it to the Reds. Dubbed a ghost goal, Liverpool's victory was challenged for months after the game, but Benitez claimed that Cech would have been sent off for his foul on Baros anyway, justifying their triumph. It added to the mystery of their European journey, and many felt their improbable successes were destined, getting them to the European Cup final for the first time in 20 years. The final was to be played at the Ataturk Olympic Stadium in Istanbul, Turkey, on the 25th of May 2005. Gerrard has since disclosed that due to nerves he didn't sleep very well in the leading nights to the final. Milan were European champions 2 years prior and undeniable favourites, with every player amongst the world's best in their respective positions. I Rossoneri's dominance showed. Inside the first minute, Liverpool trailed when the Italian skipper volleyed Pirlo's free kick past Dudek, the fastest ever UCL goal. The next 20 minutes were unpleasant for the Reds, as the midfield quartet for Milan outclassed Alonso and Gerrard. He had left out the holding midfielder Dietmar Hamann for Gerrard and Alonso in order to rival the Italian quartet. This was a mistake. Ricardo Kaká was in his prime years at this time, and due to the midfield management of Benitez, he was able to drive with the ball towards Carragher and Hyypiä at pace, which they failed to cope with. Hernan Crespo and Andrei Shevchenko divided their attack beautifully for the second goal. The Brazilian made his signature run before chipping the ball into Shevchenko, who laid a pass across the penalty area for the Argentine marksman to give Milan a 2-goal advantage.
Hernan Crespo, who scored home and away against Manchester United earlier in the competition, has now scored the second in the final against Liverpool.
There was no rest for the weary though. Gerrard's pass was intercepted in the opposition's half, and Kaká skillfully turned the Englishman, prior to masterfully assisting Crespo's second of the game.
Look at that from Kaká, and what a pass too for Crespo, and what a goal that is. What a goal that is. Hernan Crespo again, from the sublime pass by Kaká. And Milan now playing football out of this world. Nobody can live with this.
The first half whistle was blown a minute later, and as the deflated Reds ushered themselves down the tunnel, their ultras desperately chanted their club's iconic anthem. Benitez and his team recognised their midfield issues and brought on Hamann to remedy their defensive frailties. This therefore allowed Gerrard and Alonso to attack, stay forward and reduce the deficit. Liverpool effectively engaged the aggressive tactics of Benitez, and 9 minutes into the second 45, John Arisa curled in an in-swinger to be met by the inspirational skipper on his journey to salvation.
Here we go, Steven Gerrard.
Accepting his leadership responsibilities, the skipper fueled the teammates and fans to believe in the unlikely. Taking advantage of their sudden momentum, the Scousers stole back possession and pressured every Italian touch. The fresh substitute Hamann played a tempting pass which Smicer rifled from distance past 3 defenders, gliding towards the far corner and out of Dida's long reach, separating the teams by just 1 goal. 34 minutes remained and Milan were astounded as the atmosphere now became completely Liverpudlian. I Rossoneri had no time to breathe due to the constant pressure of the underdogs, and within 3 minutes they found themselves in deep waters. Carragher slid the ball towards Milan Baros, who shrewdly backheeled it towards the penalty area and in front of Gerrard, who was closely tracked by Gennaro Gattuso. The Italian's mild contact was enough to bring down the Merseyside skipper, and the referee made the obvious decision. Alonso stepped up for the equaliser, ignorant to the opposition's appeals. The Spaniard dragged the ball to the keeper's bottom right, but Dida had predicted so, saving the initial shot. Deflecting from his save, the ball luckily rolled back in front of Alonso, who powered the shot into the net's roof, and with 30 minutes remaining tied the game 3-3. During an unbelievable 6-minute period, the best defensive unit in Europe had lost their 3-goal surplus. Undeniably, Steven Gerrard had fulfilled his purpose as captain, scoring his team's first and winning the penalty for the equaliser, while also putting in an inspired performance, making heroic challenges to regain possession and propel the midfield. Benitez moved Gerrard towards the right of the midfield when Ancelotti subbed on Serginho, the energetic Brazilian. His efforts were exhilarating as he contributed all over the pitch: midfielder, secondary striker, right winger and even right back. Merseyside heroes emerged when called for. Jamie Carragher vitally blocked Kaka's 80th minute attempt. Traore cleared Shevchenko's shot off the line, but the critical defensive moment landed upon the shoulders of their goalkeeper. Jerzy Dudek had been generally solid for Liverpool, but was no superstar. However, in Istanbul, he became a club legend. Shevchenko won Serginho's cross and darted the ball low towards goal, met by Dudek, who palmed it back to the Ballon d'Or winner. From 2 yards, Shevchenko punted the ball goalward again, but Dudek staggeringly denied the finish and deflected it over the bar in the 117th minute.
Through the shootout, Serginho with a great cross, Thomason! Oh, what a save! What a save from Shevchenko by Jerzy Dudek!
The daunting penalty spot laid in wait for the individual takers after the greatest 120 minutes of European football many have ever seen. Both teams have won their last European Cups after penalties, but most Milan players were involved in their 2003 UCL victory over Juventus, so again had the edge. Fresh-legged Serginho approached Dudek for the first penalty and carelessly powered his spot kick over the bar. Humman, with a broken toe, calmly converted his chance to put Liverpool ahead. Dudek, distractingly moving around, managed to save Pirlo's feeble effort before Djibril Cissé doubled their advantage. John Dahl Thomason saved Milan a chance for their own comeback, especially when Dida thwarted Rice's penalty. Kaka levelled the score until Smicer beat Dida for the second time that night, seizing a 3-2 lead. Andrei Shevchenko, the man who netted the winning penalty in the 0-3 final shootout, was next. But fate took control. Nicknamed the Miracle of Istanbul, it was widely deemed the greatest final in the tournament's history. The underdogs had completed the ultimate comeback, overturning a 3-0 deficit and returning to Merseyside as European champions for the first time since 1984. Gerrard was selected as man of the match and has since declared that his performance was the defining moment of his career as a Liverpool player.
Liverpool have their hands on the European Cup again, and this time it's for keeps. That trophy isn't going anywhere but Anfield.
He denied immediate rumours about transfers and Liverpool contract qualms, stating that after this Champions League triumph, he couldn't leave. Negotiations were postponed. Upon their return to Merseyside the day after the final, the players paraded the trophy around in an open-top double-decker bus. Around 1 million fans witnessed this and cheered on the Reds. Johan Cruyff and Diego Maradona acknowledged the team's unbelievable efforts and expressed admiration for their ultras' unconditional support. Another Chelsea offer came towards the European champion. John Terry, Frank Lampard and the other English players of Chelsea spoke to Gerrard while on international duty, persuading him to sign with Mourinho's Blues. Jose was looking to forge one of the great Premier League midfields, with Essien, Thiago, Makelele and the Englishman available. A £32 million offer imminently arrived at the feet of Liverpool, but they rejected and tried to tempt the 25-year-old with a new contract. On the 5th of July 2005, Gerrard handed in a transfer request. However, the local star made a sudden but expectable U-turn back towards Anfield, realising that winning trophies at Chelsea wouldn't compare to just one at his home club. This transfer was the closest Gerrard and Lampard ever came to collaborating at club level. Gerrard enabled strong comparisons to be made between himself and Lampard, netting a staggering 23 goals in 53 appearances from central midfield during the 2005-06 season. Another plaudit came his way in April 2006, becoming the first Liverpool player since John Barnes in 1988 to be the official PFA Player of the Year. Having won the UEFA Club Footballer of the Year, finishing third in the Ballon d'Or voted rankings, and featuring in the UEFA Team of the Year for 2005, Gerrard became not only one of the most revered players in England, but amongst the greatest in Europe. Against West Ham, in the 2006 FA Cup final, since known as the Gerrard final, he levelled the scoreline in the 54th minute. Cancelled out 10 minutes later by Paul Martin Konchesky. At 3-2, in the 90th, with the Hammers preparing to lift their fourth ever FA Cup, Gerrard overcame cramp to volley a half-cleared cross 35-yard belter past Shaka Hislop. The 3-3 goal tally wasn't added to in the extra half an hour, meaning that Liverpool were going to another penalty shootout to decide the tournament's victor. The eventual man of the match tucked away Liverpool's penultimate penalty, and when Reece scored next, the Reds won the cup for the 7th ever time.
And Liverpool have won the FA Cup.
Gerrard became the first player to have scored in the Champions League, FA, League and UEFA Cup finals.
Red half of Merseyside. And the FA Cup is back in Liverpool hands for the 7th time.
Improved performances in the Premier League got them to a third place finish that season. However, the title still eluded them. Having only reached the round of 16 in 2006, Liverpool were on a determined hunt for European glory. They overcame Barcelona, PSV and Chelsea in the semi-final en route to Athens, where they again faced the vengeful AC Milan, whose Brazilian playmaker sat atop the world at the time. The football gods looked elsewhere that night in Greece though. After Pirlo's unorthodox free kick and Inzaghi's impeccably timed breakthrough, Dirk Kuyt's late header wasn't enough to deny Il Rossoneri. Gerrard, Benitez and the team tasted their own medicine, returning to the north of England with only runners-up medals. Gerrard netted a goal in his 400th Liverpool game on the 28th of October 2007 and went on to score in all November games for the Reds.
But it's a great strike! Oh, it's a wonderful hit!
He continued this run in the UCL against Olympique de Marseille in December, when he scored in his 7th consecutive fixture across all competitions. This hadn't been done since John Aldridge in 1989. The Englishman was named alongside the likes of Ronaldinho, Messi and Kaká in the 2007 World 11 and voted 6th for Player of the Year. New signing Fernando Torres made an instant impact in Merseyside, developing resilient on-pitch relationships with many players, including Gerrard. Torres bagged 33 across all competitions, while the skipper finished the 07-08 season with 39 goal contributions from 52 games. Though the club's attacking prowess was far beyond that of the prior seasons, United, Chelsea and Arsenal were more consistent in the league, leaving Liverpool in 4th place. with no silverware by May 2008. Gerrard's 100th career goal came in the Champions League on the 1st of October against PSV, and would in March go on to become a European centurion when he made his 100th appearance. He hit this landmark against Real Madrid in the round of 16, during which he scored a memorable side-footed half volley past Casillas. The captain's brace helped them to a 5-0 victory on aggregate, and they progressed to the quarters, where they met Chelsea for the second consecutive year. The match quickly became a ridiculous scoring contest, finishing 7-5 to the Londoners across the legs. The Madrid triumph, coupled with Gerrard's performance against Manchester United, prompted Zinedine Zidane to claim that the Englishman just might be the best player in the world. Liverpool had begun their domestic campaign in excellent form, remaining undefeated for 3 months and topping the table ahead of European champions Man United. 3 straight Liverpool draws in the new year gave United the boost they needed to catch the Reds, and a loss to Middlesbrough in late February put a fatal dent in their title aspirations. A month later, Gerrard converted his first Premier League hat-trick in a 5-0 victory over Aston Villa, and in May, the Football Writers Association named him as the 2009 Footballer of the Year. In the end, Liverpool dropped to second, and the Mancunians stole away an 11th Premier League championship.
Manchester United.
Dispirited and humbled by the prior season's shortcomings, their results sank early into the 2009-10 season. In December, Gerrard made his 500th appearance in the red shirt, but the 0-0 draw with Blackburn Rovers demonstrated why Liverpool's campaign was so underwhelming. Torres, whom their attack depended on for the last 2 years, suffered a few knee injuries and underwent surgery towards the end of April, which damaged their form. Eventually slipping to 7th on the table, they sealed the season failing to qualify for the Champions League and void of silverware. Rafa Benitez, after 6 years in Merseyside, left the club by mutual consent in June, and within a week had joined the Serie A and European champions Inter Milan. Roy Hodgson was appointed as Rafa's successor, who, though doubted by fans, received immediate support from the dressing room, including Gerrard, who reassured supporters he would stay. Hodgson was an experienced and well-travelled manager who was seen by the board as a way to stabilise results and build a successful system over time. The beginning of the season, however, was plagued with defeats. Dropping points at home to Sunderland, Blackpool and Wolves was unacceptable for a club of Liverpool's stature, and early into Hodgson's initial period in charge, things began to collapse. Yet on the European stage, the Reds sustained an unbeaten run, though 3 of the 7 games were 0-0 ties. Gerrard rose to the occasion against Napoli, scoring a second-half hat-trick to trounce Gliazzurri, enabling Liverpool to top the group and advance to the knockouts. Following a 3-1 loss to Blackburn, Hodgson made way for club legend Kenny Dalglish to replace him as manager. With King Kenny at the helm, form gradually picked up and they went on a 4-game winning streak, conceding 0 goals. On the 31st of January 2011, Torres completed a British record-breaking £50 million transfer to Chelsea. In the same 24 hours, Liverpool broke its own transfer record, with the signing of Luis Suarez for £22.5 million from Ajax. Mid-season adjustments failed to save them, and they concluded the season in 6th, excluding them from the Europa League with not even the levity of silverware. Another injury inconvenienced Gerrard, causing him to miss the start of the 2011-12 campaign. His groin grievances had started back in April, during the last season, and persisted until the 24th of September when he came on against Wolves as Suarez's substitute. The 31-year-old faced more transfer interest, this time from Bayern Munich, whom he dealt with similarly to Chelsea, claiming that despite the Germans were regular Champions League favourites, his loyalties remained with his local side. His misfortune resumed in late October, suffering an infection in his right ankle, which was treated on and protected by a plaster cast for the upcoming weeks. His eventual return was made on the 26th of December, but a fantastic strike against Newcastle 4 days later showed his full recovery. Gerrard proved vital in Liverpool's League Cup journey, converting a penalty brace versus eventual Premier League champions Manchester City in the semi-finals, whom they overcame 3-2 on aggregate. Cardiff City awaited them in the final, which sat at 2-2 for a lengthy 120 minutes. England came out on top though, succeeding the Welsh 3-2 on penalties, handing them the cup for a record 8th time and putting an end to their 6-year silverware drought. On his 400th league appearance for Liverpool, the skipper scored a hat-trick in a 3-0 thrashing of intercity rivals Everton in mid-March. Liverpool had to face harsh realities in this season. They were not involved in any UEFA competition for the first time since 1999, which negatively impacted the financial growth of the club. Additionally, the team just wasn't strong enough to maintain consistent form, let alone challenge for the title. League Cup success and FA Cup runners-up medals failed to alleviate the embarrassment of an 8th league finish, their lowest since 1994. Dalglish was dismissed by the club on the 16th of May 2012. Northern Irish manager Brendan Rodgers was unveiled as Dalglish's replacement for the upcoming 2012-13 league campaign. By virtue of their League Cup triumph, Liverpool had qualified for Europa League admission. They progressed through the third qualifying and playoff rounds, finding themselves in the group stage, which they topped above Udinese, Young Boys and Anzi Makakala. Liverpool's time away from Europe had more of an impact than expected, as they were knocked out in the round of 32 by Zenit. Their patchy league form was recognisable now, hosting losses to Aston Villa, West Brom and a weak Arsenal side. Suarez was individually thriving in spite of the grim circumstances, and was reliably at the heart of the thrashings that Liverpool handed out. Concluding the season with 23 league goals, the Uruguayan was the obvious standout.
Long from Enrique, taken by Suarez. Oh, what about that? What about that?
Yet again, the Reds finished outside the top 5, preventing them from competing in Europe. This was their third consecutive year outside the Champions League, cementing this period in the new decade as a dark one for the club. However, their devoted captain signed a contract extension in July, instilling belief in the supporters and inspiring the dressing room. Gerrard captained Liverpool for the 400th time against Swansea on the 16th of September, later eclipsed by his goal in a 3-1 victory over Crystal Palace. This made him Liverpool's first ever player to score in 15 consecutive league campaigns, to overtake Billy Liddell, the former record holder. Soon after, he became the longest serving captain of the club, surpassing Alex Racebeck's 10-year record, set over a century ago. A historical October for Gerrard culminated with him bagging his 100th Premier League goal against Newcastle. Rodgers and his team were enjoying a surprisingly gratifying season, reliably winning at Anfield and avoiding chains of losses. Man City were trading the number 1 and 2 table positions with Liverpool throughout the year, making the future champions increasingly unpredictable. The Reds seemed favourites after beating Man United 3-0 on the 16th of March with the help of the skipper's penalty brace. And on the 6th of April, Gerrard did it again to conquer West Ham 2-1. These wins elevated them to the summit of the table with 5 matches remaining. The Englishman's couple at the Bowling Ground officially took his goal tally beyond Kenny Dalglish's, becoming the club's 6th highest ever goalscorer. The first and second of their final 5 games both finished 3-2 in favour of the Reds, including a vital success against Man City to give them a 2-point lead. Gerrard concluded the victory against the Sky Blues in a post-match huddle with his team. Three games awaited the hopeful Merseyside team, but Mourinho's Chelsea were the imminent opponents on the 27th of April. The Londoners sat in third place, knowing their title chances were slender, while also wanting to impede Liverpool's bliss. Chelsea had beaten them at Stamford Bridge in December. However, considering Liverpool suffered just one home loss that season and were on a 16-match unbeaten streak, they were inevitable favourites. The defining moment of the season happened 3 minutes into the first half's extra time. Safely in their own half, Mamadou Sakho played a typical short pass to Gerrard, who initially miscontrolled it before infamously slipping under pressure from Demba Ba, who ran freely towards the Kop to put the Blues ahead and gave City the edge in the title race.
Out comes Mignolet, but Ba punishes of all people Steven Gerrard.
Liverpool then pressed Chelsea for the remaining 45, almost defenceless, taking fruitless shots at Mark Schwarzer and his impregnable defence. In the dying seconds of the decisive contest, Willian and Torres countered the incessant Liverpudlian assault to pair up against Simon Mignolet and double their lead. As the final whistle blew, Liverpool's league advantage was extinguished, and their hopes of the title now fell into Mancunian hands. The Chelsea manager, over the past decade, had developed quite a rivalry with the Reds. It has since been reported that Mourinho just wanted to ruin the Liverpool party. Following this, the Reds drew 3-3 away to Crystal Palace, which essentially sealed their fate. City caused major Merseyside upset, with an eventual 2-point surplus over Liverpool.
Trophy, Manchester City are Premier League champions for 2013-2014.
Gerrard was again one of the finest performers of the season, providing the league's most assists with 13 and scoring another 13 himself. This gained him a nomination for the PFA's Player of the Year, but Gerrard described this time as the worst 3 months of his life. The 2013-14 campaign was Liverpool's best chance at the title since 2009, and with Suarez rumoured to move after the World Cup, it seemed to be their final opportunity for a while. Gerrard rebuffed retirement reports in October of the new season, but stated that he'd only leave if Liverpool failed to offer him a new contract. Following his exclusion from the Liverpool lineup against Real Madrid in the UCL, Brendan Rodgers privately discussed the captain's game time with him. A new contract was proposed to Gerrard, but after his conversation with Rodgers, on New Year's Day 2015, he revealed that he would depart the club in May. On this same day, the Englishman contributed both Liverpool goals in a 2-2 draw with Leicester. 4 days after his announcement, Gerrard netted a brace in the FA Cup, helping them to a 2-1 win against AFC Wimbledon. Not since 2005 had Gerrard converted 2 goals in successive games. A month later, the captain played his 700th Liverpool game. On the 25th of April, Gerrard became the 3rd ever player to appear in 500 Premier League games for a single club, after Ryan Giggs and Jamie Carragher. He played his emotional final Anfield game on the 16th of May. Gerrard walked out with his daughters before kickoff to thank and applaud the supporters. Though unfortunately remembered for the humbling 3-1 loss, it was a deserving tribute to Gerrard's services across the 17 years. 8 days later, Gerrard made his last ever Liverpool appearance, in which he scored the sole goal for the Reds versus Stoke, who demolished the Merseyside club 6-1. The Potters almost pitied them and showed respect to the English legend when their defence allowed him to run through on goal and enjoy a final moment as a Liverpool player. From here, he went on to enjoy a relaxed season in America, with LA Galaxy scoring 5 in 34 appearances. Gerrard officially retired as a professional player on the 24th of November 2016, shortly after his 36th birthday. Gerrard and Lampard were part of an English national team side referred to as the Golden Generation, which lasted for a decade from the beginning of the 21st century. They played in 3 World Cups and 2 European Championships, but were very disappointing in every tournament, progressing no further than the quarter-finals. They both were similar players who liked to push forward, but neither are defensively minded, and if forced into the wrong system, they would be wasted. They excel in the space behind the strikers, loitering for a chance to pick up the ball and create opportunities for the strikers or themselves.
Gerrard! Oh, yes!
In their corresponding club sides, they had the licence to attack, able to rest on the laurels of Javi Mascherano and Claude Makelele, who provided defensive cover. Many assumed that 2 midfielders of such elite quality should be able to simply figure it out with the assistance of the coaches and manager for the betterment of the team, as this could have been the greatest midfield duo of the decade. Gerrard made his international debut on the 31st of May 2000, and that summer received a call-up for Euro 2000. However, he only played once, off the bench against Germany. England were later eliminated in the group stage. During a qualifier for the Korea-Japan 2002 World Cup, the Scouser was given more of a chance by Sven-Göran Eriksson, who started him against Germany in September 2001. Eriksson received excellent returns on his gamble as Gerrard netted his first international goal. His was one of the 5 the Germans suffered that day in the famed fixture. Though England qualified for the tournament, Gerrard's groin burdened him to the point where he couldn't even justify travelling to Japan and missed his first possible World Cup. England again failed to impress after being knocked out by Brazil in the quarter-finals after Ronaldinho's phenomenal free kick.
Ronaldinho takes and David Seaman's call off his line and Brazil take the lead.
And the South Americans would go on to win the competition.
And Brazil win the World Cup for the 5th time.
Having become a team regular, Gerrard contributed 2 goals on the road to Euro 2004, in which Lampard would also play after having been overlooked for the 2 prior international tournaments. The Chelsea man earned his first cap on the 10th of October 1999, and 4 years later, in August 2003, he scored his first for England. Portugal hosted the games, and the 3 Lions were drawn in a group with Croatia, Switzerland and the favourites, the Euro 2000 champions, France. Eriksson incorporated a typical 4-4-2 English system, starting Gerrard and Lampard in the central midfield roles, while Beckham and Scholes occupied the wide areas. Lampard scored the opening goal in the opening game of Group B.
Oh, it's in!
However, Zidane provided extra time upset when he scored a 91st minute free kick before Gerrard played a short pass back into the path of Thierry Henry. The Arsenal invincible intercepted and was brought down by David James for an obvious penalty. Zizou calmly converted from 12 yards for an added time winner.
Yes! It's heartbreak for England.
Lampard scored twice more in the group stage, whereas Gerrard netted 1. The tournament hosts met the Brits in the first knockout match. After 90 minutes, the game was tied 1-1, until Rui Costa put Portugal ahead with an unstoppable strike in the 110th minute.
Stunning.
5 minutes later, Lampard equalised from a corner and the game went to penalties. The shootout began peculiarly, as Beckham missed his penalty for the second time in Euro 2004. as did Costa. 14 penalties were needed before the winner was determined. Ricardo denied Darius Vassell's penalty, and the Portuguese sent the Three Lions home.
The goalkeeper saved and scored and won the game.
Lampard was included by UEFA in the All-Star squad alongside Wayne Rooney, Ashley Cole and Sol Campbell. After the retirement of Paul Scholes, Lampard became a regular alongside Gerrard, and the fans voted him as England Player of the Year in 2004 and 5. Both players were crucial in the group stage of the 2006 World Cup. Gerrard scored against Trinidad and Tobago and again versus Sweden,
Flicks it in. Gerrard!
while his counterpart was named man of the match in England's opening 1-0 victory over Paraguay. The Londoner had also scored winning goals against Austria and Poland in the qualifiers. He played every minute of England's matches, but failed to score, even missing his penalty against Portugal in their quarter-final shootout. Gerrard also missed, and England yet again fell short in a major competition. However, he did finish as top goalscorer for his country with 2. Eriksson stood down after the disappointment of the World Cup, and his assistant coach Steve McClaren replaced the Swede. McClaren made Gerrard the vice, and, as John Terry was out, the Liverpudlian captained the side through a dark period. After consecutive losses to Russia and Croatia, England failed to qualify for Euro 2008, to the dismay of the supporters. Fabio Capello replaced McClaren in 2008 and gave Gerrard a test run as skipper. However, Terry was his preference and Rio Ferdinand became the vice. Eventually, Gerrard was reappointed to the position when Ferdinand was handed the armband following Terry's private life controversy. Lampard and Gerrard helped avenge England when they both netted a brace in a 5-1 thrashing of Croatia, guaranteeing their place at the 2010 World Cup. They met with rivals Germany in the round of 16, but misfortune plagued the Lions. Lampard's shot rebounded off the underside of the crossbar and crossed the goal line.
Did it go in? No, say the officials.
However, the officials didn't allow the goal, believing the ball never crossed the line. If correctly allowed, the Chelsea star would have tied the game 2-2, but the Germans ended up winning the game and sent the English home.
It's finished. Germany 4, England 1.
Lampard had a maddening experience in South Africa, achieving a record of 37 shots on goal with no success, which hadn't been matched in the World Cup for 44 years. As the golden generation came to its conclusion, the two club legends had proved that they were clearly not the same players for England, and they started featuring together less into the 2000s. Euro 2012 ended similarly to prior tournaments, eliminated in the quarter-finals. Gerrard stood out in spite of weak England performances, later featuring in the team of the tournament. On the 22nd of March 2013, Lampard netted his 28th international goal to become England's highest scoring midfielder ever, surpassing David Platt. It was announced that Gerrard would captain England for the 2014 World Cup, while Lampard was named the second skipper. The squad was indisputably weaker than any selected in the last decade, and this showed in the results. Conceding losses to Italy and Uruguay in the group stage doomed the side, and the 0-0 draw to Costa Rica, in which Lampard wore the armband, certified England's first group stage exit since 1958. Following this embarrassment, Gerrard retired from international football on the 21st of July 2014, having represented England 114 times with 21 goals to his name. He remains the fourth most capped English player ever. Lampard's withdrawal soon followed on the 26th of August. He scored 29 goals in 106 international games. Though dubbed the Golden Generation, this decade-long English side were unable to shine, as they were constantly living in the shadows of the Brazilian, Italian, Spanish, German and French sides, who were managed by coaches that understood the appropriate tactics for their teams. The Premier League's reliance on foreign players and management had elevated the division to the most watched in the world, but inadvertently added to the detriment of the country's national team. The obvious question is who is the better of the two? They deserve considerable respect, both in the footballing and the general sports worlds. When it comes to Gerrard versus Lampard, they are perhaps the two most legendary English midfielders to ever play in the Premier League. Lampard at Chelsea for 13 years, while Gerrard spent 17 with Liverpool. Though very comparable in playing style, they were used in different ways. Gerrard was a captain at heart, whose devotion to the Reds is ridiculous to argue. He spent 17 years at the club despite interests from Real Madrid, AC Milan and Chelsea. Essentially the football equivalent of a cricket's all-rounder, he was able to distribute, attack with, win back and hold the ball when needed. But versatility is selling him short. While featuring in some weaker Liverpool teams, Gerrard would be able to do a better job in any given position than the players the club had actually signed to perform there. Defensive, holding and right midfielder, as well as second striker or fullback, the man would thrive in the famous red shirt. The Istanbul final is a microcosm for how Gerrard carried Liverpool for over a decade. The skipper would find some inspirational hope when no other teammate could. To score a vital goal,
It was Gerrard!
win a crucial penalty,
Well, he has picked Liverpool up by the scruff of the neck.
or provide a needed assist,
Gerrard looking for Fernando Torres.
while making some of the toughest opponents in the world look lackadaisical. And he would do this in finals. Istanbul, the FA Cup, the League Cup, the UEFA Cup. He was the ultimate big game leader and the definitive box-to-box midfielder. Frank Lampard, on the other hand, was just a brutal goalscorer. Able to score 20 goals a season from midfield, he would be hard to deny from a managerial perspective. With a name to live up to that he eventually enriched, Lampard was a one-of-a-kind, goal-addicted freak, while epitomising an ideal box-to-box midfielder also. He also proved that a great engine combined with a clever mind is unbeatable, incorporating an economical mindset to be efficient with the ball and without it. The off-the-ball attacking run became a staple of Lampard's game,
It's Frank Lampard!
whereas Gerrard on the offensive liked the ball at his feet for chances or shots on goal.
Steven Gerrard!
The Londoner also turned up in pivotal moments. Bolton to win the title, the Champions League final goal against Manchester United, Napoli, Bayern Munich, Everton in the 2009 FA Cup.
Frank Lampard blasts Chelsea into the lead!
He was a serial winner with a team in which his place was never questioned, and nor were his stats. With Chelsea and West Ham, Lampard played 648 games, scoring 210 goals and averaging a goal-to-game ratio of 0.32. Gerrard played 710 Liverpool games and scored 186 goals, acquiring an average of 0.26 per game.
He's not shy of shooting.
Clearly, the Blue was a more prolific and frequent scorer, but again Lampard was a midfield anomaly, so goals cannot be seen as the be-all and end-all of the discussion. Gerrard also provided less assists than Lampard, 143 to 151.
finds Lampard. It's showtime.
So there's clearly a compelling argument in favour of Lampard, as he seemingly contributed more to the attack of the team. However, there are caveats to keep in mind. Firstly, at Chelsea he played in better teams, with strikers like Hasselbank, Drogba, Cole and Anelka to play off of or provide for. He was also able to do this due to the defensive support of midfielders like Makelele, Essien and Ramirez, allowing him to push forward. Whereas the Merseyside skipper played in teams that had the odd special player, like Alonso, Torres and Mascherano, but were generally quite mediocre. Also, he was played in a deeper role, which made it more difficult for him to provide and score. The breaking up of play, tackles and passing accuracy have always been historically poorly tracked and measured. So, from a statistical standpoint, Gerrard will always be underappreciated. In terms of accolades, Lampard won 3 Premier League titles, a Champions League, a Europa League, 4 FA Cups, 2 League Cups and 2 English Super Cups, totalling up to 13 trophies. Gerrard, on the other hand, won 11, namely a Champions League, a UEFA Cup, 2 UEFA Super Cups, 2 FA Cups, 3 League Cups and 2 English Super Cups. Additionally, both individually won the English Footballer of the Year award. Clearly the difference in club accolades between the Englishmen is that Gerrard failed to win the English League title. The notoriety of the slip is because it denied Gerrard the final trophy for his cabinet to fulfil his legacy with the team he loves. Despite the unbelievable European Cup success, which holds more weight across the continent, Liverpool hadn't yet won the new Premier League, and to many English players, the league title, particularly with their favourite club, comes first. Lampard was more successful throughout his career as a player, winning more silverware and making more goal contributions. But Gerrard's impact on Liverpool is invaluable, anchoring the team as skipper through thick and thin across 3 decades and saving them on countless occasions. Had the Scouser transferred to Chelsea or Real Madrid, he would have obviously won more. Yet it's his loyalty and devotion to the Reds that makes his story so legendary. Gerrard is not just the better of the two, but is the most complete midfielder in the history of the Premier League. The tragedy of their collaborative national team effort is overwhelmed by what Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard did for their clubs.
It's Gerrard. That's a great shot.
The debate of who's better will live on unresolved, like every sporting dispute. But as long as they're respected eternally, the question needs no answer. Famously respectful of one another, they epitomise sportsmanship and have etched their names into the rich history of English football.
Frank Lampard, a different kind of person, not so extroverted, but the best professional I have ever worked with. He's the player that trains better, more concentration, more commitment, always focused on himself.
Best player you ever played with for England?
I'd have to say Gerrard at times. It was me, Stevie, and Frank left.
Yeah.
Stevie pulled us to a lot of games then.
I think people will call him Mr. Chelsea with John Terry, but Frank Lampard. I mean, he could just like dominate the game on his own. With the defending part of the game, the attacking part of the game, the amount of goals, like I said, assists, and what he became. When you work hard, you get your reward, and that's a great example. One of the best players that I've seen in my life, not only in the Premier League but in the world. The way he could decide a game at any time and change the course of a game.
I would still say Lamps. Having seen Lamps, listen, you would probably say Stevie, having seen Lamps train and what he could do was unbelievable.
Hello Steve, just to say it was a pleasure to play with you many years when we play Manchester against Liverpool. You are a fantastic player. I wish you all the best for your career and for your life.
Who's the best player you've played with? For me, I respect and I think Frank Lampard because he's a hard worker, you know, and he didn't get there like this. He had to work hard, you know, and he's clever. He's clever, and for me, a football player is not only the one who kicks the ball, but it's the one who's smart.
When he was at the top of his game, was he one of the best?
Ouais. Pour moi, il a fait partie des meilleurs joueurs à un moment donné. Quand justement vous êtes en train de dire ça, c'est-à-dire quand il était au maximum de sa forme, de sa plénitude, en fait, ça a été un joueur très important qui a compté pour l'Angleterre, qui a compté pour Liverpool et qui a compté pour le football.
Oh, it's a great hit and it's a great goal. Frank Lampard gets his 20th Premier League goal of the season. Cushion header, but Gerrard! Oh, you beauty! What a head, son! What a head! Left it for Lampard! Like that! Oh! 4 added minutes, and Gerrard! This time, Frank Lampard! Oh!